So hi, I'm Daniel Greene, and today we're excited to be kicking off our second series of interviews for the Empower You Facebook group. What can I say about my super awesome guest today? Well, she's a good friend of mine, an entrepreneur carving out her own business from the grassroots. She's a healer, psychic, and spiritual teacher. So I'm not quite sure how much of these aspects should be revealed in this interview today, but we shall see. I first met Angela on a spiritual forum back in 2012, I believe it was. We've chatted on the phone many times, and I'm absolutely delighted to finally get to interview her today. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Angela Richardson from EmpoweredCrystals.com. Welcome, Angela. It's so lovely to finally get you to do an interview. Ooh.
Hello.
Right, we're going to begin. I'm sure those watching at home would love to know a bit about your backstory before you actually set up your own business. So if you can just sort of take us through, your own background, please.
Okay, well, completely different. Biochemist. So I worked in a lab for years, and my last job was managing a lab. And I enjoyed it, and obviously it's challenging. But I was doing on call at my old job to make up the difference in money. And so I was doing 1 or 2 nights a week at my old job. And then I was traveling to London, 3 hours travel time a day. And I started making jewellery. And people started to request to buy it. And somebody at work, I was showing them, and they actually said, "So what are you going to do with all this jewellery?" I said, "Well, I don't know. It's just going to sit around, isn't it? I'll wear a lot." And she says, "Well, why don't you try to sell it? Because, we've been buying it because they've been requesting things at work." And so I started on Etsy. And my first goal was to replace the on-call, which I did very quickly within 6 months. So I thought, right, I'll give up my job at my second job. And I was happy at that. And then suddenly it got so busy, I was starting to turnover, not profit, but turnover more than my current job. And I thought, this is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? So I made the jump and handed in my notice. There was a lot of other factors going on because my mum was extremely ill at the time. So she had severe dementia, very, very ill. And that was a big, big factor. I just couldn't cope with the stress of the job. And the fact that there was very little room if you had to go and run to an emergency. They just don't really allow that at the job. So it just was to give me more freedom, to help my brother, and of course, something I enjoy, which is great.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued. So what was the inspiration behind actually making jewellery? How did that come about? Was it a long-held passion, or was it something else?
It's crystals was a massive passion. Ever since I was young, I was collecting pebbles. We used to go up to Wales and I used to collect pebbles, and they used to have like little bits of raw quartz in the ground. And I used to always be collecting them. And then as a teenager, I got into crystals. I worked at a health shop during my teenage years. And of course, I loved all of that. And I've always had this interest. And 20 years ago, I had this dream about this crystal. And it was in a stream and it was running. And this crystal was beautiful. It's this long raw quartz, and it was what I didn't know about at the time. It was wrapped in silver wire. And I had never heard of wire wrapping. I tried to find this crystal and I just never found it. Forgot about the dream. And of course, years later, it suddenly becomes very relevant that I actually had that dream all those years ago. I was being prompted years ago to do that. But of course, once I actually found wire wrapping and all the things you can do with it, it just was addiction, really was. And still now, I just like buying new crystals, finding new wire wrapping techniques. I love it, And at the end of the day, that is about half of the job. So the other half, photography and stuff, isn't so interesting, but the making of the jewelleries and finding new crystals and new rare crystals is great.
Yeah, and I understand you have a unique selling point, and there's, you know, apart from dealing with someone who's very passionate and dedicated about their work, you've also, you stand out from the crowd. So can you talk a little bit about how you're different to other people who may be selling crystals, handmade jewellery?
The main thing is that I use Reiki to clear every single crystal of negativity. And then I tune it. And what I do, I don't only use normal Reiki symbols. I use these angelic symbols, which they bring in this lovely higher power. And so many people have said to me, they've bought Reiki crystals before, and this has just got such a nice energy compared to normal Reiki. And it's a specific language called Zebu that was channeled by an author. And so I use the crystals while I'm attuning it to Reiki, and use these symbols. So that's one major selling point. But the other thing is I hunt, and I spend hours hunting for them, is rare crystals. And I have over 100 different crystals on my site now. And it's things that are really difficult to get to. I've very lucky, I've found some very good suppliers. And I've actually got a local one that allows me to hand pick my crystals, which, you know, you can't beat that.
Yeah, awesome. I just want to touch upon, you've obviously got other abilities, gifts. When I first met you in 2012 on a spiritual forum, you were doing lots of psychic readings, mediumship readings. You were the go-to for healing as well, and you do a lot of teaching. And do you still offer those services? I know you were the last time we spoke. Is that something you're still doing now, or what?
I don't offer full readings anymore, just purely because of time. I used to do email readings, and I would do a little bit over 3 or 4 days. That's how long they took me. And people love them, and I'm sure I could probably charge more for them, but I just don't have the time for it anymore. But what I do offer is, if people ask me to tune crystal for them, I will tune in for them. I've just done one the other day, actually, is somebody wanted to choose for 3 suns, and so I chose 3 different crystals for each of the 1 suns. The healing, obviously, that's all involved in the crystals, so that's how I do my healing now, but I don't offer separate healing sessions anymore.
Right. I'm
It's just
hoping
got so busy now that
you've become a victim of your own success, which isn't a bad thing. But equally, from a personal stance, I'm hoping that one day you'll free up some time, whether you take on more staff or whatever. But because I've been the recipient of your psychic readings, past life readings, insight healings, and they were marvelous, to be honest. They really were something you're really gifted at, strong at. So who knows, maybe the next time I interview you, you'll be incorporating them or whatever. We shall see. That's something I personally hope. Would you like to show the viewers in the Empower You Facebook group a selection of your work? I'm sure they'd love to see that. I know I would too.
Okay.
Yay.
So this is a very detailed Tree of Life pendant. I've used carnelian stone, which is energizing, and combined it with copper. And it comes quite large, if you can see.
Yes.
So it's a real statement piece. So this one's really good for if you need energizing. My favorite stone ever is fluorite. So I always have to slip one of those in.
Yeah, that's a big piece, yeah.
And it's it heals on a DNA level, supposedly.
Wow.
So it's absolutely my favourite stone. And that is another Tree of Life pendant. Again, bit of a different angle, but I think they look like little bonsai trees. I think they look really attractive, and they're one of my best-selling products. But they do take a while.
Right. I can definitely see
Another,
the draw there. Yes. I can definitely see the draw and why people would be attracted to buying that particular piece of work, not least because it heals on a DNA level. My God. Yeah.
yeah.
Carry
on. This is another part of the business. I sell fossils,
right.
and fossils have a healing properties in their own right. And this is an extinct ammonite, which is a seashell creature. And it brings in earth healing energy. And it's really striking stone anyway. It's very popular with men's pendants. So the men love those ones.
Okay.
I do a whole spirit animal range as well, which is a bit different. So I like to combine the energy. Usually I choose nice calming stones with the spirit animals so you can tune into them. So we have a little fox there, and very popular, a little owl on turquoise.
Lovely, yes.
And I also have quite a large ring range, which these are the most spectacular of the rings, but I also do a lot of minimalist ones. So don't be put off if you don't like statement rings. But this one is made completely from wire and stones. So I'll show you with it put on. But they really make statement pieces, completely adjustable, so it doesn't matter your ring size. And that's kunzite, which is quite difficult to get. And it's supposed to protect from entities attaching to you. So really good for psychic work. It was also supposed to be against black magic, which is probably a bit outdated nowadays, but yeah, it's a really good ring. And this one, my most popular stone, is sugilite. Again, another ring. I have a whole range of sugilite because it is so popular. It's quite difficult to get hold of, and I have to import it in myself. But wow. It's supposed to be really calming and comforting to cancer sufferers. So it gives that emotional support, and I get loads of people buy them for presents when they hear somebody's been diagnosed with cancer. So I get an awful lot of sort of get well soon and we're here to support you presents. And everything comes with a little leaflet which gives you all the care, but it also says about the Reiki attunement and the symbols, and it also says about the folklore. So they're just tiny little snippets, a little snippet of the folklore. But if you're given a gift, I send them straight to the people through the website. And I also have an option to upgrade to handmade cards. So I get loads of people take up the upgrade, and they've got all the little gift leaflet explaining why they've chosen the present, and then they can add their own personal message in the card as well. So, and there's one last stone I want to show you, which is the moldavite, which is really rare, really expensive. That's the top of the line range that I do. And that was formed when a meteorite hit Earth millions of years ago. And it is only found in Czechoslovakia in one mine. So it's really rare, and eventually it will run out.
Beautiful. Wow, I can vouch for your work. I've ordered some different things from your website over the years I've known you. It does come absolutely beautifully packed. I was so impressed. You do feel there's so much love and care gone into the making of it, the packaging. You know, you really do a person proud who chooses to buy from you. Could you give us an example of ranges of prices, you know, from what you start at mid-range or whatever, going to the high end, that would be really useful, please.
I try to keep everything really reasonable. So my lower end starts at £8. And then most of my stuff falls within the £10 to £20 range. So it's all really reasonable prices. And then I do an upper range, which obviously includes the Moldavite, which just the materials are so expensive. And it can go up to £80 for the Moldavite. But I use really good quality stones, and it tends to be those that push the prices up, and I combine with sterling silver for the higher end.
Okay, beautiful. We like to ask people if they have any tips or insights for the viewers watching at home, maybe interested in starting their own business, relevant to them. So do you have any pearls of wisdom or insight you could share with the viewers, please, Angela?
Well, on the business side, most definitely. I get so many people say, my business isn't successful. How do you do it, Angela? And when I say, it's actually, you've got to dedicate the time to it. If you want a part-time business, dedicate part-time hours. But if you want a full-time business, I'm afraid you've got to dedicate full-time hours. And on Etsy and websites, my rule of thumb is that you should be creating the number of products you want to sell every day. So I create 10 products minimum every single day because that's what I want to sell. Well, it seems to be working for me, but the number of people that come to me, and when you actually ask how many hours, it's like they say, oh, well, I don't know, about an hour a week. And I thought, well, yes, you could expect an hour's a week wages then, aren't you? So that would be about £10, £50 a month if you're lucky. Yes. So you've really got to be realistic with your timings, I think.
Yeah, awesome. And somebody else, I'm hearing more and more that we don't have business issues as such. There aren't problems in your business, but you have your own issues and blocks in a work. Once you work through the business issues, by doing your own inner work, the next level is revealed and you can scale it more, etc. And I'm finding that increasingly in my own business. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Oh, yes, definitely. It's not only that, it's the fact that you've got to be choosing something that you love. You can't do something that you love for 10 hours a day and you hate it. You've got to choose something that you love, and then I think you will push through the issues naturally. I think quite often the blocks is where somebody thinks they'll create something that will make money, and that's where I think people start falling down, where they try to predict the market.
Yeah, and it's about helping people's lives to be better in some way, giving value.
Yes.
And if you do that, if you give value, you hear it all the time, but if you give value, try and improve people's lives with your products and your services, then your recompense, the energy will come back in the flow.
I must admit, the number of reviews I've had where people comment on how they bought a beautiful piece of jewellery, but they had a wonderful side effect. Somebody recently, they just bought a piece of fluorite, my favourite, for their mother, and they were surprised at the improvement they saw, and they just didn't expect to see sort of any side effects with it. And I get loads of people reviewing like that. So, I don't charge for the Reiki attunement. It's something a little bit different, but you get your nice product, something pretty, but you might get something good for your body as well.
Awesome, that's fantastic. So if people want to check out your work, what are your contact details, your website, and what's the best way to get in touch with you and so on? Can you share that, please, Angela?
Yeah, I've got, I'm on Facebook actually as Empowered Crystals. So if you do a search for Empowered Crystals, I'll come up. I'm also on Instagram, also as @Empowered Crystals, and I post the most there. I post several times a day. So if you really want to see the up-to-date products, that's where you'll see it. And also I've got my own new website, brand new, which is empoweredcrystals.com. and that has no adverts. You won't be led away. You will just see the products and you can have a nice look around without getting any of the junk that's usually on all these websites nowadays.
Okay, I want to thank you, Angela, for showing up today, giving your time, your expertise, and talking to our viewers. And just want to thank everyone at home for watching. To see if you want more information, get in touch with Angela. She's the real deal. She's a beautiful person to deal with, and she'll take care and look after you. So it's bye from me, and it's bye from Angela.
Bye.
Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye now.